The pill organizer slipped from my hands at 3:47 a.m., scattering Dad's medications across the kitchen floor like confetti from hell. I dropped to my knees, frantically collecting tiny white tablets in the dim light, knowing that missing even one dose could send us spiraling back to the ER. My name is Alexandra, and this is what my life looks like now. Dad? I called softly, hearing movement from his bedroom. Everything okay? Where's my coffee? His voice carried that edge of confusion that meant we were having a bad night. It's almost 4 in the morning. How about some water instead? I found him standing in the hallway in his pajamas, looking lost in the house he'd lived in for 30 years. The man who once commanded boardrooms now couldn't remember where he kept his slippers. I need to get to the office, he said, patting his chest for a tie that wasn't there. The Henderson contract won't sign itself. Dad, you retired 15 years ago, remember? You sold the company. His face crumpled slightly, then hardened. Don't patronize me, Alexandra. I know what day it is. But he didn't, and we both knew it. My phone buzzed on the counter. Ruby's name flashed across the screen at 4:03 a.m. My sister never called this early unless something was wrong, or unless she wanted something. Alex? Thank God you're awake. Ruby's voice carried that breathless quality she used when she was about to dump responsibility on someone else. I've been thinking about Dad's estate planning. We really need to get serious about this. Good morning to you too, Ruby. Dad's fine. Thanks for asking. Don't be dramatic. I'm trying to be practical here. Vince thinks we should move Dad to that nice facility in Westchester, the one with the golf course views. I watched Dad shuffle back toward his room, shoulders stooped. He's not ready for that. Alex, be realistic. You can't keep this up forever. You look exhausted every time I see you. When was the last time you saw me, Ruby? Because I'm pretty sure it was Christmas, 8 months ago. I've been busy. The foundation gala, Vince's merger, the kids' summer programs. Right. The kids you see every day versus the father you see twice a year. That's not fair. Some of us have actual responsibilities. The words hit like a slap. 5 years of my life, gone. 5 years of watching my tech career evaporate while I learned to navigate insurance claims, medication schedules, and adult diapers. 5 years of canceled plans, ignored texts from friends, and watching my savings account drain like water through a sieve. You're right, I said quietly. Some of us do. Ruby's sigh was audible through the phone. Look, I'm just saying we need to think long-term. Flynn agrees with me. Flynn agrees with whatever requires the least effort from Flynn. He's building his brand, Alex. His Instagram has over 2 million followers now. That's a real business. Taking selfies at beach resorts is a real business? You're being bitter. It's not attractive. I stared at the scattered pills still on the floor, each one representing another sleepless night, another emergency, another day further from the life I used to have. I'll talk to Dad about the estate planning. Good. Maybe we can all sit down next week and... I said I'll handle it. After hanging up, I finished collecting Dad's medications and reset his pill organizer for the week. The routine was automatic now. Morning pills, afternoon pills, evening pills, bedtime pills. Each compartment a small prison of time. My laptop sat closed on the kitchen table, a relic from my former life. Sometimes I opened it just to see my old work emails, watching opportunities pass by like trains I'd missed. Erin, my former colleague, still sent job postings occasionally. Just in case, she'd write. The door's always open. But doors close when you don't walk through them. Dad appeared in the kitchen doorway again, looking more alert. Alexandra? Did I hear the phone? Just Ruby checking in. He nodded, then paused. I was cleaning out the attic yesterday. Found some old boxes from when your mother passed. My chest tightened. Mom had been gone 12 years, but Dad's grief still surfaced in unexpected moments. There's an envelope up there, he continued. Has your name on it. Your mother's handwriting. I felt the world tilt slightly. What kind of envelope? Thick one, sealed. Says, for Alexandra on the front. He studied my face with sudden clarity. Maybe it's time you read it. The envelope sat on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. Thick cream paper, Mom's careful script spelling out my name in fading blue ink. I'd been staring at it for 3 days, too afraid to open it and too curious to throw it away. You're overthinking it, Aunt Natalia said, settling into the chair across from me with her coffee. She was Dad's younger sister, the only family member who still visited regularly. Your mother loved you. Whatever's in there, it comes from love. Then why didn't she give it to me before she died? Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe you weren't ready. The front door slammed, followed by the click of expensive heels on hardwood. Ruby swept into the kitchen like she owned the place, designer purse swinging from her shoulder. Alex, we need to talk about Dad's birthday party. I've booked the country club for Saturday. She paused, noticing Natalia. Oh, hi, Aunt Nat. Ruby? Natalia's voice was carefully neutral. The party's in 2 weeks, Ruby continued, pulling out her phone. I've invited everyone. Dad's old business partners, the neighbors, family friends. It'll be perfect. Did you ask Dad what he wants? He wants to celebrate turning 80. Obviously. Ruby's eyes landed on the envelope. What's that? Something Mom left for Alexandra, Natalia said before I could answer. Ruby's expression shifted, a flash of something, jealousy, suspicion, crossing her face. Mom didn't leave anything for me. Maybe she did, and you haven't found it yet. The front door opened again, and Flynn's voice carried from the hallway. Where is everyone? I brought pastries from that place in Soho. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, all casual confidence and perfectly tousled hair. At 35, Flynn had mastered the art of looking effortlessly successful while doing absolutely nothing of substance. Family meeting? He asked, setting down a bakery box. Perfect timing. I just posted about Dad's party on my stories. The engagement is already insane. You posted about Dad's private birthday party? I stared at him. Relax. I didn't tag the location or anything. Just some heartwarming content about family values. He grabbed a croissant. My followers eat this stuff up. Your followers, I repeated slowly. 2.3 million and growing. The brand partnerships alone are paying for my new apartment. Ruby nodded approvingly. Flynn's building something real. Unlike some people who just what? I cut her off. Nothing. Forget it. But I could see it in her eyes. The same dismissive look she'd given me since we were kids. The responsible one. The boring one. The one who cleaned up everyone else's messes. I should check on Dad, I said, starting to stand. Actually, he's napping, Flynn said. I peeked in on him. He looks good, Alex. Really good. You're doing great work here. The condescension in his voice made my teeth clench, like I was the hired help receiving a performance review. We've been talking, Ruby said, exchanging a glance with Flynn, about Dad's care, long-term planning. What kind of planning? The facility in Westchester has an opening. It's beautiful, Alex, like a resort. Dad would love it. Dad would hate it. He wants to stay in his own home. He wants a lot of things, Flynn said gently. Doesn't mean they're realistic. Natalia cleared her throat. Have you considered what Alexandra wants? She's been carrying this burden alone for 5 years. It's not a burden, Ruby said quickly. It's family. We all contribute in different ways. How exactly do you contribute? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Ruby's face flushed. I have a family of my own, Alex. Responsibilities. I can't just drop everything and... And what? Take care of the man who raised us? That's not fair. You chose this. Nobody forced you to give up your career. I chose this because nobody else would. Flynn held up his hands. Okay, let's not fight. We're all on the same team here. Are we? I look between my siblings, because it feels like I'm playing alone. You're being dramatic, Ruby said. We appreciate everything you do, but we also have to be practical about Dad's future. And yours. My future? You can't do this forever, Alex. You're 38. You need to think about your own life. The envelope seemed to pulse on the table between us. Mom's final words, waiting to be heard. There's something else, Ruby said, her voice dropping. About Dad's will. We should probably discuss. Not now, Natalia interrupted sharply. Not in front of your father. But Dad wasn't in the room. And something in Ruby's expression told me this conversation was just beginning. The panic attack hit me at 2 a.m. while I was changing Dad's sheets. One moment I was stripping away soiled linens. The next, I was gasping for air in the laundry room, my chest crushing inward like a collapsed building. Alex? Dad's voice drifted from his bedroom. Everything all right? I pressed my back against the washing machine, counting breaths. 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out. The technique Aaron had taught me during my worst days at the tech company. Back when deadlines felt like life or death situations. Funny how that seemed like child's play now. Coming, Dad. By morning, I'd managed 3 hours of sleep and 2 cups of coffee. The envelope still sat unopened on the kitchen counter, taunting me. I was reaching for it when my phone rang. Alex, thank God. Aaron's voice was warm, familiar. I've been worried sick. You haven't returned my calls. Sorry. Things have been crazy. I know. But I have news. Remember TechFlow? The startup I mentioned? They're expanding their remote team. The position is perfect for you. I stared out the kitchen window at Dad's overgrown garden. Aaron, I can't. You can work from anywhere. Set your own hours. It's like the universe is throwing you a lifeline. I appreciate it, but nothing. Alex, you're disappearing. When's the last time you did something for yourself? Before I could answer, Dad shuffled into the kitchen, pajama top buttoned wrong, hair sticking up at odd angles. Morning, sweetheart. Is there coffee? Always. I poured him a cup, adding the exact amount of cream he liked. Aaron, I have to go. Promise me you'll think about it. Promise me you won't let them destroy you. After hanging up, I helped Dad with his morning routine. Pills, breakfast, shower, getting dressed. By the time Ruby arrived at noon, I was running on fumes and caffeine. We need to talk, she announced, breezing past me into the living room. About the expenses. She dropped a folder on the coffee table. Bills spilled out. Medical supplies, prescription costs, home modifications for Dad's mobility issues. This is getting out of hand, Alex. The monthly expenses are astronomical. Dad's care is expensive. You knew that. I didn't know it would be this expensive. Look at this. She held up a receipt. $300 for a hospital bed rental? Can't he just use his regular bed? He falls getting up. The hospital bed has rails. And this? Another receipt. $500 for a wheelchair ramp? So he can get outside. Fresh air is good for him. Ruby's face was flushed, her voice rising. You're spending money like it's water, Alex. This has to stop. What has to stop? Taking care of our father? Taking care of him reasonably. We can't bankrupt the family because you want to play nurse. The words hit like a physical blow. Play nurse? You know what I mean. No, I don't. Explain it to me. Ruby's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at me. Flynn's outside. We're going to lunch. Of course you are. Don't be like that. We're allowed to have lives, Alex. Are you? Because I wouldn't know what that feels like. After they left, I sat in the quiet house, surrounded by the detritus of caregiving, pill bottles, medical equipment, insurance forms. The envelope seemed to glow on the kitchen counter. I finally opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper in Mom's handwriting, dated 3 months before she died. My dearest Alexandra, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're probably taking care of your father. I know you, sweetheart. You're the one who fixes things, who carries the weight. Your siblings will let you, because it's easier for them. Don't let them take advantage of your good heart. Protect yourself. I've left something for you in the safety deposit box at First National. Box 247. The key is taped under my jewelry box. You are stronger than you know, and you deserve more than they'll ever give you. All my love, Mom. My hands shook as I read it twice, then 3 times. I found the key exactly where she said it would be, a small silver thing that felt heavy as a secret. The safety deposit box contained documents I'd never seen before, including a contract template for private caregiving services, complete with hourly rates, overtime provisions, and legal language that made my pulse quicken. At the bottom of the box was a note in Mom's handwriting, just in case. My phone rang. Ruby again. Alex, we've been talking. Flynn and I think it's time to have a serious conversation about Dad's future. And yours. What kind of conversation? The kind where we all face reality. Can you meet us at the lawyer's office tomorrow? 2:00? I stared at the contract in my hands. Mom's final gift. Actually, Ruby, I think it's time we all faced reality. But maybe not the reality you're expecting. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out tomorrow. The country club sparkled like something out of a magazine. Ruby had outdone herself. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, and enough flowers to stock a funeral home. Dad sat at the head table in his best suit, looking more alert than he had in months. 80 years old, he announced to the gathered crowd. And still kicking. Laughter rippled through the room. His old business partners, neighbors, distant relatives. Everyone had come to celebrate the man who'd built an empire from nothing. The man who now needed help buttoning his shirts. Speech! Speech! Someone called out. Dad stood slowly, gripping his cane. The room fell silent. When I started my company 50 years ago, I had nothing but determination and a dream. But I learned something important along the way. Success isn't just about what you build. It's about the people who help you build it. He gestured toward our table. My children have been my greatest achievement. Ruby, my brilliant daughter, who married well and raised beautiful children. Ruby beamed, raising her glass. Flynn, my son, who's conquered the digital world and built his own empire. Flynn nodded, already composing his Instagram post in his head. And Alexandra. Dad's voice softened. My youngest, who gave up everything to take care of her old man, who sacrificed her career, her future, her own happiness to make sure I could stay in my own home. The room murmured appreciatively. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Alexandra's reward won't come in this lifetime, Dad continued. But I know her mother is watching from heaven, proud of the woman she raised. Sometimes the greatest gifts aren't material. They're spiritual. More murmurs. A few people dabbed their eyes. Ruby leaned over and whispered, See? He appreciates everything you do. Dad raised his glass. To family, to sacrifice, to knowing that some people are called to serve while others are called to lead. The toast echoed through the room. I lifted my glass with shaking hands. Now, Dad said, settling back into his chair, I have an announcement to make about my estate. The room went quiet again. Ruby and Flynn exchanged glances. I've made my decision about the will. After much consideration, I'm leaving everything, the house, the investments, the remaining business assets, to Ruby and Flynn. The words hit like a physical blow. Around me, people nodded approvingly. Of course, the successful children would inherit. Of course, the one who'd given up everything would get nothing. They've built their own lives, Dad continued. They understand money, investments, responsibility. They'll know what to do with it. Ruby reached over and squeezed my hand. Alex, you know this doesn't change anything between us. We're family. Flynn nodded earnestly. We'll take care of you, obviously. You'll never have to worry about anything. I looked at their faces. Ruby's satisfied smile, Flynn's practiced sincerity. Then I looked at Natalia, who was watching me with knowing eyes. "That's very generous," I said quietly. "It's practical," Ruby said. "You've never been good with money anyway. Remember when you tried to start that consulting business? You lost everything. I invested everything in Dad's care." "Same thing," Flynn said with a laugh. "But don't worry. We'll make sure you're comfortable." The party continued around us. People approached Dad to offer congratulations, to reminisce about old times. Ruby and Flynn worked the room like politicians, accepting condolences on their future inheritance. I excused myself and walked to the bathroom, where I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. 5 years of sleepless nights had carved lines around my eyes. 5 years of stress had turned my hair prematurely gray. 5 years of sacrifice had left me looking like a ghost of my former self. When I returned to the table, dessert was being served. Dad was telling stories about his early business days, his voice strong and clear. For a moment, he was the man I remembered from childhood. Commanding, charismatic, larger than life. The key to success, he was saying, is knowing when to take risks and when to play it safe. I always played it safe with family. Family is everything. Ruby and Flynn nodded along, already planning their inheritance. But Natalia caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. It was time. I reached into my purse and pulled out a large manila envelope. The contract inside was 3 years old, signed by Dad during one of his lucid periods, witnessed by his doctor and notarized by the bank. "Dad," I said, standing up, "before we finish celebrating, I have something for Ruby and Flynn. A little gift." I slid the envelope across the table to my siblings. "What's this?" Ruby asked, tearing it open. Her face went white as she read the first page. Flynn leaned over, his expression shifting from confusion to horror. "What is it?" Dad asked. Ruby's voice was barely a whisper. "It's a bill." "A bill for what?" Flynn's voice cracked as he flipped through the pages. "Professional caregiving services," I said calmly. 5 years of round-the-clock care at market rates. It's all itemized. Ruby's hands shook as she read. This says you're charging us $400,000. $437,650, I corrected, plus interest. The color drained from Flynn's face. "Alex, this is insane. You can't charge family for what? For giving up my career? For losing 5 years of income? For destroying my health taking care of Dad while you two lived your lives?" People at nearby tables were starting to stare. Ruby noticed and lowered her voice to a hiss. "You're embarrassing us. Put this away." "I'm embarrassing you?" I laughed, the sound sharp in the elegant dining room. That's rich, coming from someone who just inherited everything while I got a pat on the head and a promise of heavenly rewards. Dad looked confused, his earlier clarity fading. "What's happening? What bill?" "Nothing, Dad," Flynn said quickly. Alex is presenting a legally binding contract," I interrupted. "The one you signed 3 years ago, Dad. Remember? You said it was just a formality for insurance purposes." Ruby's voice rose despite herself. "You tricked him. He has dementia." "He was lucid when he signed it. His doctor confirmed his mental capacity. It's all documented." Vince, Ruby's husband, leaned forward. "This is extortion. This is business. Something you should understand, Vince." Flynn was frantically scrolling through his phone. "I'm calling our lawyer." "Good idea. Have them explain how employment contracts work, especially ones for specialized care." Ruby's face was red now, her composure cracking. "You can't do this to family." "Family?" I stood up, my voice carrying across the room. Family doesn't abandon each other. Family doesn't dump all responsibility on one person while they live in luxury. Family doesn't publicly humiliate someone who sacrificed everything. "Lower your voice," Ruby hissed. "Why? Afraid people will hear the truth? That you and Flynn have been freeloading off my labor for 5 years? Dad struggled to follow the conversation. Alexandra, sweetheart, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Dad. I'm just collecting payment for services rendered. Flynn slammed the contract on the table. This is ridiculous. No court will enforce this. Actually, they will. I had it reviewed by 3 different lawyers. It's airtight. You've been planning this, Ruby whispered. All this time, you've been planning to destroy us. I've been planning to survive. There's a difference. Natalia finally spoke up. Maybe we should discuss this privately. No, I said firmly. We're discussing it here, in front of everyone, just like Dad discussed his will in front of everyone. The room had gone quiet. Dad's old friends and business partners were watching our family implode in real time. The contract includes back pay for 5 years of caregiving, I continued. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Professional nursing rates, plus overtime, plus hazard pay for dealing with medical emergencies. Hazard pay? Flynn sputtered. Remember when Dad fell and broke his hip? Who do you think called the ambulance? Who rode with him to the hospital? Who slept in a chair for 3 nights while he recovered? That's what family does, Ruby shouted. Exactly. And now family is paying for it. Vince was calculating on his phone. This amount? It's more than the inheritance. Much more, I confirmed. And it accrues interest daily until it's paid in full. Dad looked around the table, his confusion deepening. I don't understand. Why is everyone upset? Because your children are learning about consequences, Natalia said quietly. Flynn's face was pale. Alex, please. We can work something out. We're family. Now we're family. 5 minutes ago, I was the hired help getting my reward in heaven. That's not what Dad meant, Ruby said desperately. Isn't it? Because it sounded like he meant I should be grateful for the privilege of destroying my life for free. The waiter approached hesitantly. Is everything all right here? Perfect, I said, smiling. We're just discussing a business transaction. Ruby grabbed my arm. Alex, stop this, please. Think about what you're doing. I looked down at her manicured hand on my sleeve, then at her face. The same face that had dismissed me, patronized me, treated me like the family servant for 5 years. I have thought about it, Ruby. For 5 years, I've thought about nothing else. I pulled my arm free and picked up my purse. The contract gives you 30 days to respond. After that, I file a lien against the estate. Every day you delay, the interest compounds. I leaned down and kissed Dad's forehead. Happy birthday, Dad. Enjoy your party. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Flynn's voice behind me. This isn't over, Alex. I turned back one last time. You're right, Flynn. It's just beginning. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. the next morning. Ruby's name flashed on the screen for the 15th time in 12 hours. I let it go to voicemail. By 7 a.m., Flynn was pounding on my front door. Alex, open up. We need to talk. I found him on the porch, still in yesterday's party clothes, his hair disheveled and his eyes wild. You look terrible, I said, opening the door. We need to fix this. Now. He pushed past me into the house. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've presented a bill for services rendered. Pretty standard business practice. This isn't business. This is family. Funny how it's family when you need something from me. Dad shuffled into the living room in his bathrobe. Flynn, what are you doing here so early? Nothing, Dad. Just visiting. Flynn's voice cracked with fake cheer. At 7 in the morning? I couldn't sleep. Excited about your party yesterday. Dad smiled. It was wonderful, wasn't it? Though I'm still confused about that argument at the end. Flynn shot me a desperate look. There was no argument, Dad. Just family business. My phone rang again. This time it was Vince. Don't answer it, Flynn said quickly. Why not? Afraid of what he might say? I picked up. Hi, Vince. Alex, we need to meet. Today. This contract situation needs to be resolved immediately. I'm available anytime. My schedule is surprisingly flexible these days. Ruby's lawyer wants to see the original documents. Can you bring everything to his office at 2? Of course. I have copies of everything. The contract, Dad's medical records confirming his capacity, witness statements, the works. Flynn was frantically gesturing for me to hang up. We'll see you at 2, Vince said, then paused. Alex, I hope you know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. After I hung up, Flynn collapsed into Dad's recliner. This is going to destroy us financially. Should have thought about that before you decided I was worth nothing. We never said you were worth nothing. You didn't have to say it. Your actions said it loud and clear. Dad was following our conversation like a tennis match. What's this about money? Nothing you need to worry about, I said gently. It's about the contract, Flynn said. The one you signed for Alex's caregiving. Dad's face scrunched in concentration. Contract? The one where you agreed to pay me for taking care of you, I explained. Remember? You said it was smart business. I did. Flynn leaned forward. Dad, you don't remember signing anything, do you? Flynn, I warned. No, this is important. Dad, do you remember agreeing to pay Alex hundreds of thousands of dollars? Dad looked confused. Hundreds of thousands? For what? For 5 years of round-the-clock care. For giving up my career. For sacrificing my life. But you're my daughter. Family takes care of family. Flynn's face lit up. Exactly. You hear that, Alex? He doesn't understand the contract. He never would have agreed to it if he'd been thinking clearly. He was thinking clearly. His doctor confirmed it. 3 years ago. Look at him now. Dad was staring at us both, lost. I'm sorry. I don't understand what's happening. My chest tightened watching him struggle, but I'd come too far to back down now. It's okay, Dad. We're just working out some details. The front door opened and Natalia walked in, carrying a bag of groceries. Good morning, everyone. Flynn, you look awful. Aunt Nat, thank God. Maybe you can talk sense into Alex. Natalia set down the groceries and studied the scene. Flynn disheveled and desperate, Dad confused, me standing rigid with exhaustion. What kind of sense? She's trying to destroy the family over money. Is she? Or is she finally standing up for herself? Flynn's mouth fell open. You're on her side? I'm on the side of fairness. Alex has been carrying this burden alone for 5 years while you and Ruby lived your lives. We contributed. We visited. Twice a year. For a few hours. While Alex gave up everything. Dad struggled to stand. I think I need to lie down. This is all very confusing. I helped him to his room, settling him into bed with his morning medications. Alexandra, he said as I tucked him in, did I do something wrong? No, Dad. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why is everyone so upset? I smoothed his blanket, my hands shaking slightly. Sometimes people get upset when they have to face the truth. When I returned to the living room, Flynn was pacing while Natalia watched him with cool eyes. This is insane, he was saying. No judge will enforce a contract signed by someone with dementia. He didn't have dementia when he signed it, Natalia said calmly. How can you be sure? Because I was there. Flynn stopped pacing. What? I witnessed the signing. Charles was completely lucid. He read every word, asked questions, understood exactly what he was agreeing to. The color drained from Flynn's face. You knew about this? I suggested it. After watching Alex sacrifice everything while you and Ruby took vacations and posted on social media. Flynn sank into the chair. We're ruined. Ruby's already talking about selling the house. Vince is furious. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided Alex's life was worthless. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. Please, We need to talk. Family meeting at 2. Just us. I showed the message to Natalia, who nodded grimly. Time to finish this, she said. The lawyer's office felt like a funeral parlor, all dark wood and hushed voices. Ruby sat across from me, her usual polish cracked around the edges. Dark circles under her eyes, her designer suit wrinkled. Flynn slumped beside her, scrolling through his phone with shaking hands. My followers are asking questions, he muttered. Someone posted video from the party. It's going viral. Shut up about your followers, Ruby snapped. Their lawyer, a thin man named Patterson, spread documents across the mahogany table. I've reviewed the contract. It's comprehensive, but it's not enforceable, right? Ruby's voice was desperate. Dad has dementia. He couldn't have understood what he was signing. Actually, the medical documentation is quite thorough. Your father's doctor certified his mental capacity at the time of signing. There are witness statements, notarization, even video evidence of the signing. Flynn looked up from his phone. Video? I pulled out my tablet and played the recording. Dad, 3 years younger and sharper, reading through the contract with his reading glasses. This seems fair, Alexandra, his recorded voice said clearly. You're giving up your career to take care of me. Of course you should be compensated. But Dad, Flynn's voice came from off camera, family doesn't charge family. Family also doesn't abandon each other, Dad replied firmly. Alexandra is making a sacrifice. The least I can do is make sure she's not financially ruined by it. The recording ended. The room was silent. He was lucid, Patterson said quietly, completely aware of what he was agreeing to. Ruby's composure finally cracked. Alex, please. We're your family. We can work something out. What kind of something? We'll split the inheritance. 3 ways. Equal shares. The inheritance that's worth less than what you owe me? Vince leaned forward. We could arrange a payment plan. Monthly installments. With interest compounding daily, you'd be paying me for the next 20 years. Flynn slammed his phone down. This is insane. You're destroying us over money. I'm collecting payment for 5 years of unpaid labor. There's a difference. You chose to take care of Dad. Because nobody else would. Ruby started crying. We had our own lives, our own responsibilities. And I didn't. I had a career, Ruby. I had plans. I had a life before I gave it all up to wipe Dad's ass while you posted vacation photos. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up, my voice rising. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been taking turns. Fair would have been sharing the responsibility. Fair would have been acknowledging that what I was doing had value. Patterson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss settlement options. There's nothing to settle, I said. The contract is clear. Payment is due in full within 30 days, or I file a lien against the estate. A lien that would exceed the estate's value, Vince said grimly. Exactly. Flynn's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went white. Shit. The story's been picked up by the news. He turned his screen toward us. A local news website headline read, Daughter bills siblings $400K for caring for father after being cut from will. They interviewed people from the party, Flynn said, his voice hollow. Everyone's talking about it. Ruby grabbed the phone, scrolling through comments. Good for her. About time someone stood up to freeloading family. Those siblings are disgusting. My sponsors are pulling out, Flynn whispered. 3 brands canceled contracts this morning. The country club is asking questions about our membership, Vince added. This is becoming a public relations nightmare. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Maybe you should have thought about that before you publicly humiliated me. We didn't mean, Ruby started. You meant every word. You meant it when you said I was playing nurse. You meant it when you said I chose this. You meant it when Dad said my reward was in heaven while you got everything material. Patterson shuffled his papers. The court date is set for next month. Unless we can reach an agreement, There won't be an agreement, I said firmly. Ruby looked up from Flynn's phone, mascara streaking her cheeks. Alex, I'm begging you. We're family. You're right. We are family. And family pays their debts. I gathered my documents and stood to leave. Wait, Flynn called out. What if we contest the will? Give you an equal share? Too late for that. What if we make you executor of the estate? Still too late. Ruby's voice broke. What do you want from us? I paused at the door, looking back at my siblings. Broken, desperate, finally understanding what consequences felt like. I want you to understand that actions have prices. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. I want you to experience what I've lived with for 5 years. And then what? Ruby whispered. Then we'll see if you've learned anything about family. I walked out, leaving them to face the wreckage of their assumptions. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain when I arrived for the final hearing. Ruby and Flynn stood huddled under an umbrella with their lawyer, looking like they'd aged a decade in the past month. The media attention had been relentless. Local news, social media, even a segment on a national morning show about family caregiving contracts. Alexandra. Ruby approached me as I climbed the steps. Can we talk? One last time? We can talk in there, I said, nodding toward the courthouse doors. Please, just 5 minutes. I stopped, studying her face. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple black dress. Her hair was pulled back severely. No makeup to hide the exhaustion in her eyes. 5 minutes. We stepped under the courthouse overhang. Flynn joined us, his phone notably absent from his hands. We're broke, Ruby said simply. The legal fees, the media attention, Vince's business partners pulling out. We've lost everything. I lost my brand deals, my apartment, everything, Flynn added. I'm living in a studio in Queens now. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Ruby's voice was sharp. Because you look like you're enjoying this. I considered the question. I'm not enjoying your pain, Ruby, but I'm not sorry you're finally experiencing consequences. Dad doesn't understand any of this, Flynn said. He keeps asking why we're all fighting. Where is he now? Sunrise Manor, Ruby said quietly. We couldn't afford to keep him at home anymore. The insurance covers basic care. Something cold settled in my stomach. You put him in a facility? We had no choice. The house is being sold to pay legal fees. We couldn't... You couldn't what? Take care of him yourselves? Ruby's face flushed. We don't know how. We never learned. You always did everything. So you dumped him in a nursing home. It's a nice place, Flynn said defensively. He has his own room, activities. He has dementia, Flynn. He needs familiar surroundings, consistent care, family. Family that can afford to take care of him, Ruby shot back, which none of us can anymore, thanks to you. The courthouse doors opened and Patterson emerged, checking his watch. We should go in. The judge is ready. Inside, the courtroom was packed. I recognized faces from Dad's birthday party, neighbors, even some reporters. Judge Martinez, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the case file as we took our seats. This is an unusual case, she began. A family caregiving contract with significant financial implications. I've reviewed all the documentation, witness statements, and medical records. Ruby gripped Flynn's hand. The contract is legally binding, Judge Martinez continued. Mr. Charles Knight was mentally competent when he signed it, and the terms are clearly stated. However, I'm troubled by the circumstances that led to this lawsuit. She looked directly at me. Ms. Knight, you've presented a compelling case for compensation. 5 years of unpaid caregiving is indeed a significant sacrifice. But I'm curious, what outcome are you hoping for here? The question caught me off guard. I want to be paid for my work, Your Honor. And if that payment bankrupts your siblings and forces your father into institutional care? The courtroom was silent. I felt everyone's eyes on me. That's not my responsibility, Your Honor. I fulfilled my obligations. They should fulfill theirs. I see. Judge Martinez made a note. Before I render my decision, I'd like to hear from the other parties. Ms. Fleming? Ruby stood shakily. Your Honor, I know we made mistakes. We took Alexandra for granted. We assumed she would always be there, always sacrifice, always put family first while we lived our lives. Her voice broke. But our father is the one paying the price now. He's confused, scared, asking for Alexandra every day. He doesn't understand why she doesn't visit anymore. Flynn stood next. I was selfish. I built my whole life around avoiding responsibility. But Dad raised us better than that. He taught us that family takes care of family, and we failed him. We failed Alexandra. Judge Martinez turned back to me. Ms. Knight, given what you've heard, do you wish to modify your claim? I stood slowly, my legs unsteady. The faces in the courtroom blurred together. Ruby's tears, Flynn's desperation, the reporters scribbling notes. Your Honor, I'd like to withdraw my claim. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Ruby's knees buckled. However, I continued, I have a counter-proposal. I'll withdraw the financial claim in exchange for joint custody of our father's care and equal decision-making power regarding his treatment. Judge Martinez raised an eyebrow. Explain. Ruby and Flynn will contribute financially to Dad's care according to their means. I'll provide the hands-on caregiving. All major decisions about his health and living situation will be made jointly. No one person bears the full burden anymore. Ruby was crying openly now. Alex, and if either of you abandons your responsibilities again, the original contract becomes enforceable immediately. Judge Martinez smiled slightly. An interesting solution. Do all parties agree? Ruby and Flynn nodded frantically. Then this court orders the establishment of a joint caregiving arrangement as outlined by Ms. Knight. Case dismissed. As people filed out of the courtroom, Ruby approached me with tears streaming down her face. Why? She whispered. After everything we put you through? I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw not the entitled woman who'd dismissed my sacrifices, but the scared little girl who'd never learned how to take care of anyone but herself. Because Dad was right about one thing, I said. Family takes care of family. All of us. Flynn joined us, his voice hoarse. I don't know how to do this, Alex. I don't know how to take care of him. Then you'll learn. We all will. As we walked out of the courthouse together, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your story on the news. I'm dealing with something similar with my siblings. Would love to talk. Sarah. I showed the message to Ruby, who read it and looked up at me with something like understanding. It's not just us, is it? She said. No, I replied. It's not just us. But for the first time in 5 years, it felt like we might actually be an us again.